Hey everyone, what's going on? My name's Slender, and I've got a really cool, exciting video for you guys. As you well know, I've been spending a lot of time on the PTR, just coming up with different combinations of weapons and stuff, and I'm trying to find how to work the Greatsword into a Lifestaff build, and I think I found it. Now, again, this is not a super meta, build that everybody's going to want to run out and do. This is just for fun, guys, just for fun. And I want to show you how well the Greatsword could pair up with the Lifestaff. So for all of you healers out there, this video is for you. Let's check it out. Now, this is just a fun build that I've been playing with that I wanted to show you guys. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. So let's take a look at the build. So we have our basic Lifestaff build. And this is your pretty much your standard build if you want to do like an AoE healing setup. So we've got Sacred Ground, Orb of Protection, and Beacon. But the thing is, in my Lifestaff, I'm using, and this has been my favorite since it came out, is Mending Protection. So increases healing power by 42% for 3 seconds if Orb of Protection heals an ally. And then I'm using Blessed. And the only other nice thing would be refreshing move. That would be perfect, but couldn't get it, so that's what I'm using. And then this really makes the build Leeching Crosscut on the Greatsword. Leeching Crosscut heals for so much, it is insane. So the final strike of Crosscut heals you for 72% of the damage dealt. And then I've got Leeching Arboreal or Leeching Amber Gem to convert some of the damage to nature. So, and I also did a video on testing the Amber Gem, so if you want to check it out. And then I'm also using Dark Ascent. Dark Ascent is basically like an oh shit button. So when you can't move and you're surrounded by enemies, you can, jump up in the air, dive down, stagger everybody. And I'm using the one that has Leeching Ascent, so you can heal for the 100% of the damage done. And it does like 2100 damage. And then also Fortifying Ascent, so you gain Fortifying on successful hits, so 3 hits max. So it's like, I guess it's 10% times 3, so 30% maybe. Let's see, gain Fortify on successful hits, 3 hits max, increasing damage absorption by 10%. Is that per stack, per hit? I'm not sure. But it reduces your outgoing damage at the same time. But that's, it is what it is. So those are my weapons. And then for my armor, I'm using all light with a medium chest. Nothing really too crazy, some resilient, which doesn't really do anything for PvE, or it doesn't do anything, period. I've got some corrupted ward, and this is all stuff that I just rolled out of the boxes that they give you. Refreshing evasion, and then we've got some more refreshing evasion and shirking fortification. I only found one piece with that. I would like to do a whole set with that. I might do some testing on it. And then some more refreshing and one thing with freedom. Now these are really nice. So I've got Leeching on my ring. If you haven't noticed, this is a big lifesteal build. So Leeching and then slash damage since I'm using the Greatsword and Sacred. So this is like a perfect ring to use just for this build. And then nothing too crazy on my earring, but my necklace is nice too. I've got Divine and Health, of course. And that's my build. And then I want to show you guys pretty much know my Lifestaff build that I use for AoE heals. If you don't know and you guys want a video on that, I can make one. But this is the bread and butter right here is the Greatsword. The Greatsword is insane. I think everybody's going to be using it, and if you're not, you're really missing out. It is quite a fun weapon, and it's got so much cool stuff with it. So for this build, I'm using 2 things out of the Onslaught tree. So we're using Crosscut. Now Crosscut I'm using because I have Leeching Crosscut, and it does big damage, big damage. So if you don't know about the Greatsword, it's pretty crazy. You have 2 different stances. You've got Onslaught and Defiance. One's offense, one's defense. Now, the Onslaught one, it gives you increased damage, 15%, but you also take more damage. And your heavy attacks are really fast, but they use twice as much stamina. So that's what happens when you're in the Onslaught stance. And you can use an Onslaught ability to go to Onslaught stance, or you can use this aggressive shift, and anytime you do a full, charged heavy attack, it automatically goes to Onslaught. So you'll see me using a heavy, and then I start my combo. So Crosscut, you do 3 attacks, 110, 130, and then 160 weapon damage for the third one. And I also have Unstoppable Cuts, which gives you grit, so you can't be interrupted while you're doing this combo, which is really, really nice. And then Cross Execution, the base damage of Final Strike increased by 100%. This is insane. So anytime you use Cross Cut, you want to be in the onslaught stance. You don't want to start out with this. You want to make sure you're already in the stance because you want to get that increased damage on top of all this other stuff. So base damage is increased by 100% if they're less than 50 health. Now, if you're in onslaught stance, then the threshold, instead of 50% health, they just have to be under 75% health. So even if they still have, almost 3/4 of their health left, you're still going to use that basically execute type of mechanic. And then we have Keen Posture. So when you're in onslaught stance, your next attack within 5 seconds will have a 100% increased critical hit chance. So it's going to be a guaranteed crit. Now this thing is badass. The Skyward Slash, if you get both of these, he does like a jump in the air. He does like it looks like a dragon punch, Ken and Ryu on Street Fighter. And then if you press it again, he comes down and slams the ground. So we do 80% weapon damage and apply 2 stacks of Ren for 10 seconds, or you can do 3 stacks if you're in onslaught stance when you do it. So that's why I always start off with a heavy attack, get in onslaught stance by using the heavy attack, and then I'll use Skyward Slash to give everybody rend, and then I'm going to use this to just do crazy damage to the big group. And since I have leeching, I'm also going to heal 72%. Yeah, 72% of the damage dealt. So the more damage you're doing, the more you're healing. So it gets pretty insane, and you'll see that when I start fighting. And then this, like I said, you get 3 stacks of rend, and then you also do the follow-up attack that does 140% weapon damage. And the first attack also gives them a disease, but that doesn't really matter because we're not doing PvP. And then it also strikes everybody within the 3-meter radius, so it's got like a nice little AoE. Now that's all great, right? That's fun. So you're increasing their damage by doing rend. You're in the onslaught stance, so you're just doing more damage anyway. But this is where things get really cool. So I'm using the Defiance tree, and we're taking the Undying Defiance, which is more lifesteal. So heal for 5% of the damage from all your attacks. And attacking within 3 seconds of blocking heals for 15% of the damage dealt instead. So that's pretty cool too. Now, I don't really have enough time to block when I'm doing these kind of crazy pulls, but it would be really cool. And if nothing else, you get the lifesteal all the time, so that's great. So hitting with the final attack of the Greatsword Chain reduces duration of debuffs. Yeah, that's okay. Perfect Vigilance, if you're hit while at full health, reduce the damage taken by 20% and gain a 20% Fortify for 3 seconds, so that's awesome. And then just being in Defiance stance, you get a couple different things. So you actually will, when you're doing heavy attacks, while you're in the Defiance stack, you block at the same time. The startup of that heavy attack, you're actually blocking. It's pretty crazy. That's guard point. So block incoming attacks while charging heavy attacks. So this is the only weapon where you can block while you're doing a heavy attack. It is insane. It's like grit on steroids, And then you also do, 15% reduced damage, but you also do 15% reduced damage. So you take 15% reduced and do 15% reduced damage. So it's a give and a take. And then Weary Posture, after getting Defiant Stance, the next damage taken within 5 seconds is reduced by 25%. So you can see these are pretty much a defensive tree. And then base damage is increased by 3% for each Greatsword buff on you. And this is really nice, Unflinching Blade. So charged heavy attacks have grit and inflict bleeding for 6 seconds. And you can do 5 stacks of that, so that's pretty crazy. That's one that you're always going to want to take. Guarded Shift, blocking for 2 seconds, causes you to enter Defiant Stance, kind of like the equivalent of Aggressive Shift, where you do a heavy attack to get in Onslaught Stance. And then this is the one that really makes this build. I mean, they all work well together, but this is the one that I really like. So you stab the ground, send out a shockwave with a 4-meter radius that deals 120% weapon damage. We're not doing it for the damage. But you also gain 8% Fortify for 5 seconds for everybody hit. So that as long as there's 3 people there, you're going to get a 24% Fortify, which is crazy. Plus it has grit. And then if you go down further in the tree, you can also cleanse 2 debuffs. The shockwave, if you're in Defiant Stance, will push people out like a 3-meter knockback. Or if you're in Onslaught, the offensive mode, you will actually pull people towards you. So you can kind of group everybody up with this. And then once they're all grouped up, I do a heavy attack to go to onslaught stance, and then I do my skyward slash to apply rend and do an AoE, and then I just mess them up with the crosscut and then heal off of all this stuff. Plus, you're healing off of everything with this 5%. And then the last thing is the shockwave applies a 10% weaken for 10 seconds on hit. So you're actually making everybody weaker when you use it, and that hits everybody. And then after you hit with this thing, you're uninterruptible. So you gain grit pretty much for 5 seconds. So it's pretty crazy. So I'm going to show you some big packs of mobs that I was pulling with this build. It is a lot of fun. And if you guys have any questions about any of it, just let me know in the comments and I'll answer you. Now, this may not impress everybody, but it impressed me and I had a lot of fun. And keep in mind, this is with light gear and damn near full focus. That's right, folks. That was probably a pool of like 20 plus mobs, all elites, with a set of light gear, full leeching rune glass gems, and 379 focus. You guys have any questions? Let me know, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, everybody.